Ever since I started working, which was about over 7 years ago, you know, actually an adult, with a full-time job, I always worked a lot. For example, for me, I felt like if I wasn't working over 40 hours, I wasn't doing justice to like my work or the organization. And I don't know if this is just an internalized thing that I have because I'm in the nonprofit industry, that, you're in the nonprofit industry because you care about a certain cause, and it's not just a 9-to-5 job, right? So I've always had this idea that you do need to be able to do work whenever it's needed. I mean, with some parameters, of course. But I think my work-life balance, I think it's okay. But I also love working. Is that weird?
I don't think it's weird. I mean, I like working. Do you think it's better like working from home, or do you think it was better in the office?
Think just before the start of the pandemic, around like February 2020, I was terrified of working from home. I was really against it. I had never done it before, and I
Okay.
thought, no,
You had never taken like a day to work from home? Like you never.
No.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, we just didn't have a work from home. We didn't have a work from home option in the places I worked at.
Okay. But March, I think, is March 13th is when was our last day in the office
Yeah,
in
Friday
2020.
the
Yeah.
13th.
Of course. And it was really interesting working from home. At first, we really didn't think it was going to last that long. We didn't think it was going to be months. We just figured like, oh, maybe a few weeks, whatever. So we were cool. We were like, all right, fine, this is great. I actually get to be home and work. But then it kind of dragged on and on and on. And I noticed like, all right, I'm working more. I'm working way more, like later. So I actually think that I myself had a healthier work-life balance while I was working in the office. It's like you're more aware of like, okay, I need to actually get home. I need to fix dinner. You know what I mean? Like you're not home. But when you are home, you're like, it can wait. I can run downstairs, throw something in the microwave or the oven, come back upstairs, keep working, eat while I'm working. Like I've realized now that the work-life balance that I had even before the pandemic was still not really balanced.
So, it's interesting because, do you think work-life balance and how people view it differs from generation to generation? So we're both millennials, right?
Yeah, it's probably true. Well, I mean, I think it's generation to generation, but also the type of work that you do. Like some industries just traditionally, they're like, you should be focused on your work. It's your life.
Well, it's interesting because nowadays there's a lot about work-life balance, having these mental health days, relaxation
Yeah.
days, also
Yeah.
ideas about going for a 4-day work week. But at the same time, for some reason, I feel like there's still this expectation, or there's this like societal positivity towards working a lot. It's almost as if you're working over 50, 60 hours a week. You're seen as productive, effective. And if you're tired, that tiredness is because you're working so much. It's like you're doing the hustle.
I like the idea of putting in I don't want to say extra effort, but like you're pulling your weight, like you actually are working, right? So to me, like, yeah, just doing simply 40 hours, sometimes I do get a little like, not upset, but I'm just like, oh man, I only did 40 hours this week.
Yeah.
So if I do like a little over 40, I'm a little happier. If I get to 45, I'm like, okay, that was good. Once it starts to get to like 50, 55, 60 hours, then I'm like, okay, this is a little much.
Well, what do you think
Um,
happens when they don't find something else to do and work is their life? Because maybe it
what's the
gives them a
thing?
sense of like
But
pride
you
in
know what?
life.
That's the thing. You are missing out on life. You're missing out on something. This should not be your life. You should not be killing yourself for work.
You feel like
But
young people or people like us, we are, I guess, we're a little bit narrow-minded. We're not seeing the full picture, like what's going to
short-sighted.
happen down the line, right?
Yeah, it's very
Right.
short-sighted. And that's the thing that I mean, it happens to women, especially when it comes to like corporate work, right? Or office work.
Yeah.
Because the focus is on your career. So you kind of get wrapped up in that. And then you're 35 and you're like, oh crap.
Well, I hope that doesn't happen to me because I'm kind of like that. I'm not a corporate person, but
No, I mean, it doesn't need to be corporate, but yeah, you know what I mean? It's just one of those things that happens.
well, speaking about the work-life balance, Carol definitely has something to say about that because she worked for the MTA for what, over 20 years?
That's a
Uh,
long time. That's a very
yeah,
long time.
yeah. And she has a lot to tell us,
She has
especially
some, yeah,
the
great
younger
stories.
people. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely like a clear message, something that applies to everybody's life, especially if you're young, just starting out at work. I think that what she has to say is really important. Some great funny stories too, though. Obviously, working in
Oh,
the
yeah.
MTA, and you see a lot of weird, crazy stuff.
Hi, Carol. Tell us about yourself and your life.
My name is Carol. I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York. Moved out to New Jersey in 1990. Um, I like it out here. I love it out here, actually. I lost my parents when I was very young, and three of my four brothers. But, I don't think I let that hold me back. I worked for the New York City Transit Authority for over 30 years. Which was nice. I mean, it had its moments, I'll give you that. I am currently looking for a part-time position because I retired when I was about 56, 57. That's too young, and you can't just sit around waiting for life to happen. You have to make it yourself, and, that's one regret that I have with working over 30 years for the Transit Authority is that I, committed myself to my job and nothing else. Um, when I was hired, I had lived in Brooklyn, so commuting was not a problem. But when I moved out here to New Jersey in 1990, now I had to take a train. And New Jersey Transit is wonderful, but they're not so reliable at 4:15 in the morning because that's the train I had to catch. And I had to wake up about 2:30, 3 o'clock, make sure I leave my house by 3:30, 3:45 to catch the 4:15 train, and then not get home until like 3:30, 4 o'clock. It doesn't leave you much time to do anything. So it was like that was my life, was my job. And I made no time for nothing else. So I'm unmarried. I have no children. Um, I do have male relationships, but not to any serious depth like I would like to have. And that's a regret that I have, a major regret, because now at 61, um, it's it's hard to come by, and I have no children, so it's like being by yourself 24/7. And nobody to fall back on, which would be nice. I mean, it would really would be nice to have somebody you can rely on and talk to. And not to say I don't have that with some of the male friends or female friends that I have, but it would be nice to have somebody constant in your life. And that's the biggest regret that I have, is that I made no time for a personal life. I waited for myself to retire to make a personal life. Well, now it's like you're playing catch up. Well, I didn't do this and I didn't get to do this. You didn't get to do it because you chose not to do it. You had an option. You did have an option, and I chose not to go with it. I was like, well, no, I'll work, I'll make the overtime, I'll make the money, I'll live a good life. Well, you can make all the money in the world if you can't enjoy it. What is the sense? It doesn't make no sense. I mean, that sounds kind of down and depressing, but I mean, it's not like I don't have a life, but especially now during a pandemic, okay, it's a lot different. It's a lot different. And to be quarantined in a house by yourself is a whole lot different than when you're with somebody. And I don't care how much you argue. All relationships, people argue. So it's not, arguing is only for a certain group. No, it's not. You can argue with anybody, but it's having them there physically, emotionally, mentally. That's what I regret and I missed out on. And I have nobody to blame for myself because I was given many opportunities and just refused to. Why don't we go out to dinner tonight? Or why don't we go to and I'm like, no, because I got to get up early in the morning, go to work. To hell with that. Live your life. And I wish my younger self my self now can talk to my younger self and say, you don't realize 30, 40, 30, 20, 30 years from now that this is probably going to be a lifesaver for you and you should go with it. And no, it didn't go that way for me. And the funny thing is that I'm really not the only one. I know other women who are like who are in my position. Not too many though. Thankfully, they didn't go that route. But it's not a good route I would recommend to anybody. If you're young, enjoy your time because it's going to slip on by before you know it, and there'll be nothing there for you. Geez, now I need a tissue to cry. Oh Lord. Um, but I would say that wow, it's funny, but it's not. It's not when you get right down to it and you talk seriously about it. So many mistakes, careless mistakes that I made, and no, I'm not going to say mistakes, choices that I made that I regret, that I wish I could take back, and there's nothing I could do. But I can start from today. I can start from today. I've actually been on Match.com, and I met a really couple of nice guys. Maybe something will become of that. I'm hoping. I'm not looking to jump into bed with anybody right away. But, being so independent for so long, you feel that you don't need anybody. Um, I don't need you. I have a car. I don't need you. I have a condo. I don't need you. I have money in the bank. That's no, you need more than that. You just don't realize it when you're young. Okay, you don't realize it because you feel like your superpower. You have a superpower, and that nobody can touch you, and that you're in Teflon. Get out of here. Nobody is that. No, you need a life, and no matter who you get that from, man, woman, doesn't make a difference. Everybody needs to be grounded. Everybody, and when you can't find that, I'm so independent now for so long that I don't know how I would even react in a relationship one on one at this point. I mean, I would hope I would do the right thing and learn from the mistakes I made, but that's what I can only hope for. Just go out there and enjoy whatever time I have left. And if it's playing catch up, then you know what? Then I'll play catch up. I'll be fine with that. So,
It seems like you're starting your life again in a way. Would you say so then?
absolutely. Absolutely, without a doubt. Absolutely. And like I said, if I had could talk to my younger self, I would be like, "You're wasting these years. You're wasting them." So yes, I am starting a new chapter. And before the pandemic, it was going smoothly. Believe me, I've met so many great people, so many nice people. So playing the catch up was okay at that point. Absolutely.
But now it's just a realization of all the regrets that you have.
Yeah, it's a hurtful truth. It's a hurtful truth, and I don't have anybody to blame. I really don't. And it's funny because one of my brothers once said to me, "You're never going to get married. You're too mean." But I think he meant I was too independent. That's what I think he meant to this day, and I'll always believe that because, you know, saying, "I don't need you, I'll do it myself," is being independent, not mean.
It's interesting how being independent as a woman can be seen as mean and not having a life. Do you feel
Yeah.
like if you were a man, it would have been different?
Um, I don't know. I really don't. Because I was so focused on my life and I was so focused on my life and career that I never really thought about being a man and it would be different. You know, I remember because I was so focused and independent that a lot of people, a lot of my people in my job would say, "Oh, she must be gay." Well, first of all, who would give a who would care? Oh, so what? If you have a man or woman, I could care less at this point. I'm dying for interaction. That's number one. Number two, a man wouldn't get that. A man would never get that kind of feedback. Never. So maybe in a way, a man would be treated different. The only thing with my job is because it was a city job, we were all on the same pay scale. So, it wasn't like he was making more than I was. We were on a level play field. But aside from the other things, maybe, perhaps.
Yeah. So let's go back a bit and talk about the MTA. So how did you get the job at the MTA?
A great uncle of mine was a track worker who was retired, and he kept trying to get me to take the test. Because my father had passed away in 1980, and 81, 82, the test came out. And the first time I took it, I passed. But if you didn't get over a 90, you might as well forget about it for a railroad clerk, because that's where I started. I started as a railroad clerk. Um, when I took it the second time, I actually scored very high. I remember my test score was like 98.6666666, um, which was very good. And I was hired in February of 1986. And it I started in the booth selling tokens, which they had at the time. And I was promoted to supervisor in 1990, 91. And the promotion was you had to take a test with a written essay, and actually the essay was almost as important as the questions they asked you. Um, and once I became a supervisor, oh my God, my life was a whole lot different because now when you called me and told me I had to come in, I had to come in. I couldn't tell you I lived in Jersey. They would be like, "You work for the New York City Transit Authority. Somebody tell you to move out to Jersey?" So I always kept prepared. I made sure if I knew it was going to snow, I packed a bag and I stayed over a relative's house in the city. So I wouldn't, they could never, whether it be Staten Island, Brooklyn, mostly Staten Island. I was in the five boroughs. That's all they wanted to know. Are you in the five boroughs? Yes, I am. I actually drove through the eye of Hurricane Sandy to get to work. I had to wait for the eye to come over. Otherwise, I would have never made it. I don't know if I would have made it actually, because with everything swirling around and everything and the flooding, I had to wait for it to calm down and the eye to be over, and that was ridiculous. And then I had to rent a hotel, which they never paid back. Well, I never expected them to. So many snowstorms,
So
rainstorms.
I mean, you guys are fully operational at the time for Superstorm Sandy?
Yeah, it depended where you are. Like, there's a lot of underground stations.
Yeah.
So depending on if there was major flooding, the trains would flow. Of course, if you were above ground or elevated stations, then that would be no problem. It depended where the stations were, and they would run, you know, to a certain amount, a point. Just like if there's a snowstorm, that the underground is going to keep going. So you just got to make it there. But yes, they'll go 24/7 if they can.
Wow.
Now I hear they don't. Now that I've retired, I've heard so many different stories now how it's changed that I'm kind of grateful I'm not there. They did not care if it snowed. They did not care if it rained. They can call an emergency for ice. If there was ice conditions, they would call an emergency. They called snow emergency at 6 p.m. when the snow didn't even start till 6 a.m. the next morning. They they wanted to make sure that you were at work. And there became a time where you were stressing me out over snow and I couldn't take it no more. Now I'm calling out sick as I had my years 25, 26, 27. I'm like, I'm not coming in during a snowstorm anymore. That ship has sailed. You're stressing me out over snow. And when I was younger, I you could do it. But as I got older, no, not anymore.
As you got older, you didn't take the bullshit as much, right? And you were able to like leverage your position,
Right.
and you knew what you wanted. Um, so it seems like this job, definitely not a 9 to 5. You were expected to be on anytime. And was this because of you being a supervisor?
Yes. Yes, because my brother was a bus driver and he didn't have the same conditions. And a railroad clerk, who my best friend is, she's not under those conditions. Once you take that next step, and the next step was even more horrible at the time because I was a level one supervisor. If I had taken the next step, level two, now they have control over where you work. So I'm living in Jersey. You can have me work all the way up in the Bronx. I'm like, no, that's not going to work for me. I'm not working up in the Bronx. So that's why I stayed where I was. I was covered by a union, with union rules. You couldn't just toy with me, and I was kind of safe. But if I had taken that step, it's they own you. I couldn't. They give you a beeper, a cell phone. I'm like, no, I don't want none of your property. I have enough of it. I have books. I'm still getting rid of every once in a while. I go through something, my paperbacks, and I find a transit book, and I'm like, "What is this doing here? I don't need no more transit books. Those days are over." But yeah, I don't see myself going back, and I actually can go back as an advisor or system safety when they offer out work. I
Like a
can.
consultant?
Yes. Now, I don't know if I would call it a consultant, Jandy. I think I would call it more like the transit authority hires outside contractors to do work. I would show up with the contractors to make sure you're following transit rules. There are certain things you can't do. You can't hang over the tracks. You can't put debris, shovel, sweep any debris you leave onto the tracks. Things like that. So I would call it more system safety than I would a consultant.
So this must have been a very stressful job being a supervisor. What made you just want to keep doing it?
Because every day is different. Not not one day is the same. As time went on, I chose it to be the same, but there's different agencies in the transit authority. And I could have worked at the command center where you handle the emergencies and stuff like that, and people fall onto the tracks or whatever the case may be. Um, but I chose not to do that because to me that would be even more stressful. People get shot and people, especially during the holidays, jump in front of the trains. Very sad, and station agents, clerks being killed, and just I couldn't handle that. I did that earlier in my supervisor career, but as time went on, I knew it wasn't for me. I couldn't 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 handle it. I would listen to people's phone calls when they would call me up, and can I have an emergency day? I just my daughter just found a lump in her breast, and I would be able, of course, because you have to have empathy, and of course you can have the day off, and they would have you crying on the phone with them, and then a few days later they'd call you back, which was nice, and it was nothing. It was nothing. It was just a cyst, and you would be so happy you'd be crying again with them. So I couldn't keep doing that. The job, not in that section. So I mostly worked with cleaners and clerks, assigning them their jobs, trying to help with their problems that they had in the booth. I need more rubber bands. I need more singles. I don't have enough singles. I don't have enough change. Stuff like I'd rather do that. But that is as I had more time on the job. I worked in different areas, almost all areas. As supervisor, when you first start out as a supervisor, I guess they don't want you to get too comfortable. So, and plus the job you pick is not going to always be available. So, yeah, it's not always going to be something that you want, I should say. So, I moved around a lot. I did different things. I worked with the teams that clean the stations, you know, but mostly I was up in the command center, in the assignment center. But you like you see in the taking of Pelham 123, that's how it really is. But there's different factions. There's the trains and the stations and the maintenance people and the police and the fire department, and they're all in that big area.
Wow.
So,
So, we've heard some of the sad stories on the job, but what are some of the funny stories? And I know you have a lot.
oh my God, there's a few. There's a few, but my favorite of all time is the gentleman who moved his furniture on the train. And it started early in the morning. He started with a couch with a couple of friends, a friend or two, and they brought the couch. Then the love seat came after that, and then the entertainment center came after that, and then the TV. He literally moved his house. That finally, I said to him, I said, "Are you moving?" And he said, "Yes." So I mean, I guess he couldn't afford whatever, but he was moving his stuff. I thought that was the funniest because you can actually see him all day from like I only worked 8 hours, like from 6 to 2. But I'll be damned, he literally moved his furniture. I mean, I felt bad for him after a while. I was like, "Here's a couple of bucks. Can you buy them lunch?" It felt horrible for him. Um, and then you have, the the people. Well, I had this guy call me up, and he's like, if if it's 12 o'clock now and I want to go to sleep and the clocks go ahead, what time should I set my alarm? I, I didn't understand that question. Set your alarm. What does that have to do with the hour, with the time going ahead? But you can't reason with people like that. So you're like, okay, put your clock ahead to 1 o'clock. Right now it's 12 o'clock. Put it ahead 1 o'clock, and then set your clock for 6, and you should be okay. But it's like, oh, is it raining out? Oh, okay. Will there ever be peace in the Middle East? What does that have to do with anything? It was sort of like that. I was like, no, that's not going to work. That, and then our office parties were classic. I mean, they were good for the most part. They were good for the most part. But I just don't understand if someone told you that your salad was good and nobody else wanted it because your salad is not the only thing that people wanted to eat. Trust me. Nobody wanted to bring meat. Everybody wanted to bring a salad. I'll make potato salad. I'll make macaroni salad. Why are you going to bring something else? No, everybody loves my macaroni salad. Everybody loves my potato salad.
You're really passionate about this, aren't you?
Because people wanted to bring cups and paper plates. I'm like, I can't eat that. I'm sorry. Can you bring something else? Can you bring something else? And then the one, I don't know if he was being a smart aleck. I don't want to know. He put he used a brain mold and he mixed cherry jello with milk and he put it in a brain mold and uh, uh put it out for people to eat. And he was wondering why nobody touched it. It looks like a brain. And my supervisor, my boss, comes over to me, my superintendent, and says, Carol, nobody's going to eat that. Can you cut a piece off and throw it in the garbage or something? And, so to act like people. First of all, you want to ask, why me? But, but second of all, you're like, why would you bring that and think people are going to eat it? So, I was, done by then, done. I mean, and then, it's like, what are you going to do? I mean, and then the stories of this guy who was in the booth and he had, he, this guy comes up to his booth and sprays shaving cream all over the windows and leaves out 2 cutouts for his eyes. And he tells the guy, I was only playing a joke. Um, Give me some paper towels and I'll wipe it off. And as soon as he opened the booth, the guy robbed him. And when you get robbed by the transit authority, they want every penny of it back. Every penny of it back. One guy beat the system because he was robbed. And what he did was he said, it's 1.50 cents to make these tokens. These tokens are not $2 until, well, it was $1 then. These tokens are not $1 until you sell them. So you cannot charge me $1 for each token. These were not sold yet. And he got to pay them. I forget what it was, $1 something, instead of paying the full amount. So listen,
Smart.
that was very smart on he. Well, he was very smart. What other, over and over again, how people, when you work with, I think it was 14 people, where I worked in one room. It's like, you have all these different personalities. You would put food in the refrigerator for, when you came in the morning, you go to the lunch, it's gone. Well, why would you take someone else's food?
Was it
That
a
did,
pasta salad?
I have no idea. I don't want to know. I don't want to know. The parties that the chicken curry. I love chicken curry. This woman said she brought chicken curry. I said, well, where is it? She brought a bowl. I can't even. The bowl was like this small. I'm telling you, the size of an 8-ounce glass. And I'm like, you're going to feed 14 people on that? How are you going to? You're going to turn wine into water or something next? What are you talking? I didn't get that. I did not get that to this day. People never wanted to bring meat, and when they did, it looked like leftovers from last night's dinner. Like what? No, 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 no. Either that or they paper cups and paper plates, or um, the one guy made chocolates. Well, he wasn't the cleanest guy in the world. No, nobody would eat the chocolates. And once again, my superintendent, listen, can you get rid of some of the chocolates because nobody's going to eat them? All right, I have to get rid of the chocolates because nobody's going to eat them. This guy is not clean. And then you have the people who call, I have no babysitter for my son. How old's your son? 17. Really? Really? I don't mind helping people out. I don't. Because, like I said, you have to be a supervisor and you have to be empathetic. You have to be, because you're going to hear a lot of stories. So, yeah, the stories you heard, you had to look at the phone like, really? Are you serious? We had people would call that their dog died. Well, I can understand a pet. Your dog died. You're emotional. I get that. I get it. I get it. I'll give you the day off. But I'll give it to you for the first day. I know you're going to be shaken up or heartbroken. I mean, you have to temper it with mercy. You really do. And then you have, so I mean, story upon story. And then we had adjustments we had to make. Sometimes we made mistakes, and you don't fool around with people's money. If you make a mistake and it's on you, make the adjustment, let these people get the money. When they would call me up and I noticed I made a mistake, I would apologize, and I would say to them, listen, I'm sorry. um I'm going to make the adjustment. You'll get it on your next check. That's the best I could do. I apologize. One time we got, my superintendent gets this letter, and it says third request. Now, this person's waiting, and we got paid every 2 weeks. They're waiting 6 weeks minimum already for an adjustment, and goes up to the supervisor and said, this thing says third request. Why? So the woman grabs the and third request. I only saw it twice. Really? You only saw it twice and did nothing. You had to wait for the superintendent to bring it over to you for the third time. If you saw it twice, why didn't you make it the first time or the second time? Stupid things like that. And all you could do is put your head down and laugh at these people. You're like, really? Doesn't take, it doesn't take that much. I, I never understand it. I just never, when you walk, even when you walk in the street, people can tell if you have that transit shuffle, because the transit shuffle is, I get paid whether or not I'm working. Like if I have to go from one point to another, I'm on the clock. I'm going to get paid if I get there in a half an hour or an hour. Doesn't make a difference. So they call that the transit shuffle. They
Ah.
walk a certain way. They have this swag. I don't know if I would call it swag. They have this walk to them that they're not in a hurry. I get paid by the hour, not how many people I serve.
If you ever go to New York City, can you pick out someone who has a transit shuffle?
Oh, yes, I can. Yes, I can. May take a while. It may take a while. And I don't mean somebody in a uniform. Somebody in if you see them in an MTA uniform and you watch the way they walk, that's the transit shuffle. They're not in a hurry. But if they are in a hurry, that means they're late back from lunch. That's something
Yeah.
different. That's something entirely different.
So I know you said that you've had quite a few regrets, right? From choosing a life of a career and just the dedication you had to the MTA over your personal life, and that you let some opportunities go. What sort of opportunities?
First of all, getting married, having a stable relationship for more than any certain amount of time. Because if I keep telling you I have to work, after a while you're getting tired of hearing that. Or having a baby, you know, I had a good friend of mine who said, "Don't worry if you have a baby. I'll watch the baby for you." And that was a very nice thought, but you were also still working, and I could never do that to somebody. Either I could pay for the babysitter or then I can't work. That's how I looked at it. So I let that opportunity go by, and it's funny because I've said this story once before where uh, me and a friend, we were in my bed. When he would come over, we never got dressed because we never know what we were gonna. I mean, I guess we knew eventually what we were going to wind up doing, but we just never got dressed when we were in the house. Um, and we were in bed and just cuddling, talking, whatever. And he said that he did not know if he can be committed to this relationship. To this day, I think that was the most hurtful remark a man has ever said to me because A, you're laying up in my bed, number one. Number two, deep down, I knew what he meant because I wasn't committed. And I'll regret that because if I had been committed, I would not have worked all the overtime I did, or I would not have felt that I was so independent. We would go food shopping, um, and we would have to split the bill. That's how it had to be, according to me. When we went out to eat, we had to split the bill. That's how it had to be. It didn't have to be that way. If you wanted to treat me, then you wanted to treat me. If you came over my house because I cooked for you and you wanted to buy the food, I should have let you. Or if you wanted to take me out to eat because you spent the weekend at my house, I should have let you. So I have a ton of regrets over those things. So yeah, I have a long list. It would roll like a red carpet for real. It really would.
Well, so it seems like you were independent to a fault. So do you feel like your definition of what it means to be independent has changed?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Every independent situation has a time and a place. And it's not everything is in concrete or not everything is in stone. So in that case, yeah, I truly believe that my view on independence has definitely changed. Has definitely changed.
Did
So
you did you ever expect your life to turn out the way it did?
no, no. I never thought my family was very close knit. And then my mom passed away when I was very young, when I was 6, and then my father passes away when I was 20. So between that time, 6 and 20, we were very cohesive. So it was like you didn't need the outside world. You had your own little cohesiveness. But then when my father passed away, and we're getting older now, I'm already 20. Now we're all over the place and we're not necessarily together. You know, that that counted for a lot as well. That counted for a lot as well. Because now you realize that you're on your own. But with being on your own, you're gaining independence. You know, I guess you always had the freedom, but you're gaining more independence, and you're unstoppable and you're untouchable. And yeah, when you're in your 20s and 30s, yeah, you think that, but that's not always the case. So I never thought that I would get a city job like this. I had gone for a lot of job interviews, and mostly for white collar jobs, actually, you know, office jobs or whatever. And they just weren't interested in me, um, because I had no experience. Uh, but the transit authority is a city job. So they have to take anybody. So I became a railroad clerk, and I guess I would have been happy with doing that for the rest of my life. And then an opportunity came through a friend of mine, to be promoted, you know, to take the test to be promoted. And I did that. And so, no, I never thought my life would turn out like this. I never expected it. You know, time slips away before you know it. You don't think so, but it does.
It's funny that you say that if you want to work for the city, they would take anybody, because you're not just anybody.
No, 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 I get that. I do. Thank you. It's just that if you pass their test and you pass their requirements, they really can't refuse you the job. But now it becomes, what do you make of that job? You have people who don't show up for work. Well, then you must not want the job. Who do a sloppy job. Well, you must not want the job. But if you apply yourself, you will be okay in a city job. You will be okay. And it's got great benefits, and vacation and a pension and a 401k. You can do or go anywhere depending on what the career might be. Go up the step ladder and keep going higher. You know, I have a friend right now who started as a cleaner. He's now a supervisor. As he gets more experience, he can go to superintendent. There's not too many jobs that offer that. So, you know, and to go from a cleaner salary, which I'm not really sure how much they make now, I'll be honest with you. So we'll say 40,000. Well, to go and then become a supervisor, which is about 85,000, let's say, and then to go to superintendent, which is now 120,000. That's a big leap. That is a very big leap, and get all the benefits and everything for the rest of your life.
It is.
So, you know, all I would say is buy The Chief. The New York makes that newspaper, The Chief, and read it cover to cover. You never know, there might be that one job for you, but just don't let it become your life. That's all I would say.
I'm interested in knowing who actually has made the biggest impact in your life off the job and then also on the job.
Wow. Off the job. I would have to say one of I have someone who watches my house. This woman in her early 70s. Her and her husband watch my house. They had the biggest impact on me because without because I always worried about this woman. Like if I didn't see her in church, because that's where I met her, I'd be like, well, where is she? Where is she? I'd be that she kept calling me family. That now, let's speed ahead years later, her family actually considers me family. That's it. Bottom line. um, they have shown me that there are good people out there in the world. I don't want to start crying. That there are good people out there in the world who care about others. And even though I act that way to people, it's not always reciprocated. So it's nice to see that, I'm usually not home for Christmas or Thanksgiving, but I always have an invite. It was nice on Easter to finally, after over a year, to go to their house because they all been vaccinated, to go for Easter dinner. They've had the whole family. I'm not talking about just the couple who watch my place. Their whole family I adore, and quite honestly, I can say right back that they adore me. And you do not find that. You do not. So they've had the biggest impact on me. Off the job, on the job, there's been a number of people. But I would have to say, I had a good friend, Joyce, who passed away in 2003, had a very big impact on me. Very big. I don't think I would have even thought about becoming a supervisor, if it wasn't for her, who also welcomed me into her family. And whereas, and maybe I shouldn't make this comparison, but it is what it is. Um, my girlfriend, who watches my house, is white, and this woman who had a very big influence on my life on the job is black, and welcomed me once again into their house, brought me out to New Jersey. I would never think about living in New Jersey. That would never even cross my mind. I was a Brooklyn girl through and through. That was it. And brought me out to New Jersey. So changed my life in so many ways. I would never be here. I would never be in New Jersey, and I never would have progressed that far with the transit authority. I would have stayed right where I was. So, yeah, those are the two people I have to say that had the biggest influence over me. And she was my boss, actually. And we couldn't tell nobody that we had a friendship off the job. Her kids knew and whatever, grandkids, but no, nobody else knew.
Kind of incredible that she saw something in you that she just wanted to like push you and
I know. And I think I once asked her that. And she said, I don't know. I think sometimes you're very lonely inside. I don't see you as a comedian all the time. I think there's some sort of sadness in you. And she was absolutely right. There
well,
was.
well, you know what they say about comedians is that they're the saddest folks out there.
Well, thanks. I'll write that down. Dear diary. I'll write that one down.
Just saying.
For whatever she saw, she took me under her wing, and her whole family. Goodness grief. And once she passed away in 2003, her family moved to Georgia. I believe her sister's still here. And I run into her every now and then, but it's a kind of different relationship than I had with her sister. So, but, I'll always care about them, but, not the woman who took me under her wings. That was a whole nother relationship, because I would never even be moved out here to New Jersey. And I feel bad that she never saw that I was able to buy my own condo. You know, she passed before then because I think she would have been proud. I know she would have.
I'm sure she would have.
Yeah, I think so too. Hmm.
So, why are you telling us the story?
Well, for people to get to know a little bit about me, I can be very closed off for one. Where I guess my independence has now is now relegated to the background. And I don't mind sharing my story. If I can help just one person in their 20s or 30s through my own mistakes, that would be great. That would be fantastic. I would love hearing from somebody 10 years from now. I listened to you, and I didn't think you made sense at the time, but you know what? You really did. And it gave me, it was a wake up call. That would be nice. That would be nice because I wish somebody would have done it to me.
I feel like it's a wake up call for me. So the fact that, you've had this experience and you were so ambitious and independent. Yeah, I see myself in you. And it kind of allows me to take a step back and have a more humbling view about like what I want in life.
Yeah, because you may not get it, but at least you went for it. And that's the most important thing. I didn't even let myself go for it. If I could say, well, this didn't happen and this didn't happen, all right, well, as long as I went for it, but I didn't even try. And you don't want that. You don't want regrets. Who would want regrets?
Yeah, and it seems like you regret the not trying, not the fact that you didn't get it, right?
Yeah, I didn't apply myself. I didn't apply myself. And something like I said, I wish my younger self would have said to me. But no, I mean that I could have said to my younger self.
But it's not all lost because
No.
you are starting now.
Yes,
And that's something to be proud of because it is harder to start over at a later time in life.
absolutely. Absolutely. And now not many of my friends who worked who I worked with live in New Jersey. Some of them stayed in New York, some of them moved out of state. Some of them are in Florida and Alabama, I think, and the Carolinas. So they're not even close anymore. So, I mean, now that you're retired, yes, you can travel and see them, but not during a pandemic, maybe after the pandemic, so many, opportunities to take advantage of now that, I realize that that wasn't the way for me to go. Now I got to find an alternative way.
And I guess in the journey of finding something, that's its own unique process, right?
Well, yeah, now, because now you have to decide what it is that you enjoy and what it is that you like or what it is you dislike and who you want to spend your time with. Um, I didn't realize how much I love trivia, but now I have a great group of trivia friends that I enjoy. I belong to a coffee club that I enjoy. The conversation rolls every single week. Enjoyable. And these are the things that I look forward to now. Um, I probably would have just passed by any of these things years ago, but now I'm not. I told a good friend of mine that who travels a lot. Once this pandemic's over, wherever you go, I want to be attached to your hip. I want to. I'll hold both your legs together. I will not. I am not. You're not leaving me behind anymore. So many trips. Another regret is going to Australia. She went and invited me. She invites me almost to every trip she goes, and I turned it down. Just turned it down. And now I'm regretting it. That now I told her, I'm holding on to your ankles. I'm not leaving. You're not leaving me behind. She likes cruises. I'm not too big on cruises. I would have to see. It would depend where you're going, but I'm not big on cruises. I want to get in a plane and get there in 6 hours. That's it. But anywhere else you're going, I'm there. I'm there. So yeah, I'm not letting it pass me by no more. That's come to a complete halt. If I'm interested, I'll be there. If I'm not, then you know what? I'll let it go. But at least I gave myself an option. I didn't even give myself an option.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really exciting way to live. which is nice to see that you're, you know, kind of going in this route that okay, taking life.
By the horns.
Yeah, that. I was going to say something else, but
I'm not a sitting in the back no more. I'm now a participant, which is a great feeling.
you're in
Is
the
a great
front seat.
feeling.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I'm enjoying it. I didn't think I would. I'm sure moving out to New Jersey had a lot to it because, living in New York was very aggressive. And when I would go to work in the morning, I would become a different person. But now I'm steadily in New Jersey, so it's easygoing and it flows, and I love it. So I'm no longer, I am a participant through and through.
So, do you have any, I guess, last words that you want to just say?
Don't let life pass you by. Don't don't be the candle in the wind. Be present. Give yourself an option. Be present. Give yourself an option. Don't close any doors until you're ready to close them. Look beyond. I think that would be it. No regrets. You don't want to have any regrets.
Thanks, Carol.
You're very welcome. Nice. Thank you for having me.
I feel like just listening to Carol, I've learned a lot, and it does make me think about, what I want for my life and how I do want to spend the next 20, 30 years.
Yeah. Like I obviously I would not want to spend the majority of my life alone without, a meaningful relationship, especially romantic, which is not necessarily something that's I'm not one of those people that just like meets a bunch of people, dates a bunch of people, and all that kind of stuff, right? I'm more of like a really want to get to know you kind of a person. So like obviously with work life balance, trying to find someone and get to know them takes time.
Yep. And Carol wants to tell people that just don't consume your life with work
Yeah.
because there is a potential, there is a possibility of regretting it, like she
I
did.
mean, yeah, you can keep going and then not even realize that you're missing out on something.
Yeah. I don't know if this episode or if her story resonated with anyone. I just know it resonated with me just because
Yeah.
I do work a lot and I don't think about my future
Yeah.
per se.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Some people are like, "Oh, I'll put off having a family. I'll put off, getting married. I'll put off like meeting someone." But how long can you do that? I mean, honestly, time flies before you know it. You're gonna be like 40, and you're like, "Crap." I mean, obviously, if that's what you want, if that's, if you don't want any of that, that's fine. It's not a requirement. Everybody's different. But basically, it's not even about just even romantic relationships, right? It's about whatever it is you want to do or want to have. Try and do that while you can, because honestly, when you're like 70, are you gonna really take that trip to, you know, like the Cayman Islands? You know what I
What?
mean? Like, I mean, you can.
Yeah.
Not that you can't, but it's a different experience, when you're a certain age as opposed to when you're younger. And
It's like don't play catch up too much because then you won't be able to fit everything in.
yeah,
Pace it
I mean,
out.
yeah, and that goes for even other areas of life, not even just work-life balance, just life in general. Find the time. Don't waste time.
Find the
Live
means.
life. Yeah. Don't get consumed by work or any other part of life that just sort of really isn't as important. Obviously, work is important, but there are things that are a little more important.
On that note, I think I'm gonna book a flight to Maine. Hmm.
Why would you go to Maine?
Because I want to see Stephen King.
I thought you just wanted to see like lots and lots of trees. But yeah, you want to see Stephen King?
Yes, I want to see Stephen King.
Like actually see Stephen King.
Yes, I want to see him drinking coffee around town.
But yeah, no, I mean it's I think it's a great message that Carol had, and I definitely it made me think for sure about my own life and reflect on I guess where I am, and especially even in the past year when it comes to being going through a pandemic, right? And being in lockdown, I think that also helps you reflect. And I think it's actually a lot of people have reflected on it because they're like, some people are actually like quitting their office jobs, right? They're quitting their regular 9 to 5 and they're doing their own thing. They're doing what they always wanted to do. I know plenty of people who have started their own, small businesses or just really following whatever dream they actually had.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's brave because it's risky, but hey, yeah, like Carol said, just no excuses.
Yeah.
Um, because you don't want those regrets.
That's very true. Thanks for listening to Bound by the Cloak. See you next time. Well, you'll hear us next time. We'll talk to you next time. Well, next time. There will be a next time.